This is WTEV Channel 6, New Bedford-Providence, and it's time now for Newscope 6, the Sunday Night Report. Sunday night, April 1st, 1973. Good evening, everybody. I'm Peter Wiggins, and here's what's happening here in Washington. The Supreme Court tomorrow will be letting descend a lower court decision blocking some construction of the controversial Trans-Alaska oil pipeline. The High Court refused without comment to dissent to urge government plans to overturn the lower court. Thus, the justice of the future of the pipeline from Alaska's North Slope up to Congress. The government of the state of Alaska and a consortium of oil companies that urged the court to overturn a decision issued in February by the court. U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals here. The Circuit Court said the government could not issue permits for construction of the pipeline in U.S.-owned land because the right-of-way needs exceeded the 54-foot width allowed by the Federal Mineral Leasing Act of 1920. The government was describing it as a vital one involving the national security of the nation's balance of payments during the drain due to the need to import oil from foreign buyers. Had to ask not only for the High Court review, but requested an extraordinarily speedy resolution by High Court. The pipeline has stirred storms of controversy over its potential impact on its environment, the wilderness society, and 4 other environments. Government began litigation that blocked construction of the 789-mile pipeline. In a kind of brief, they urged the High Court to uphold the circuit judges and leave the issue for the right-of-way within the whip to the Congress, where several bills can automatically introduced. In a decision in the Circuit Court, it has said that the issue was simple one, but enacting the Mineral Leasing Act was allowed to.
Meanwhile, Johnny Gomes for that
have pipeline companies to use a certain amount of land construction in their pipelines. These companies have now come to the court accompanied by establishing an executive agency. Our administrators and structured and have said, this is not enough land, give us more. We have more power to grant the requests, of course. Then we have the power to increase congressional appropriations and needy recipients, the Circuit Court said. The government argued that none of that was necessary. In this petition hearing, the government urged the Secretary for the Interior to be empowered to issue temporary permits for construction and maintenance of the right-of-way. The pipeline will require 146-foot widths. The environmentalists had called this assertion is simply untrue. In the counter brief, they argued that the right-of-way in excess of 54 feet would be permanently necessary for the access and maintenance. Unsettled all this way, the question of environmental impact, the Circuit Court expressly refused to settle the issue of whether the Secretary of the Interior would prepared the statement on the environmental impact that met the standards under the National Environmental Policy Act. Since the right-of-way question would have been settled by the Congress, the Appeals Court will be reasoning and the environmental information could be have the statement would be out of date. On other matters that the Supreme Court would decide when they get to work tomorrow, they will be agreeing to decide if civil rights laws in parallel courts to examine and prevent race bias in state courts and prosecutors' offices. Case will be heard next term. Rated in Pennsylvania may pay $23 million, which should contract to give a church-related schools before the Supreme Court ruled unconstitutional state law for foreign payments. Refers a hearing into the Pennsylvania prosecutor that is attempt to preserve his state's use of the death penalty.
That did not happen in the context of something as sensational as a plane.
Numerous supermarkets around tomorrow will be reporting that they'll be cutting down on meat orders for this week in preparation of consumers' boycott against rising food prices. However, some stores apparently were ready to challenge the house price protest. A big M market in Wesley took out a full-page newspaper advertisement offering a 20% discount on all beef products. And only morning check at the stores showed little activity at the butcher's counter. Meanwhile, Governor Philip Knowles' office has said he had signed a Senate resolution put in Tuesday in April as a meatless day when consumers could boycott meat products in hopes of driving prices down. And Rhode Island House already has passed a resolution asking that the meat could be served,
should be happening also
which will not in the legislature's standing room on Wednesdays and Fridays. In Pawtucket, store manager Mel Lynch of Almax on East Avenue said he anticipated meat sales would be 1/3 below normal. This week, spokesman of the BG on Bacon Street in Pawtucket said meat sales have shown a definite incline. Since last Thursday in Wakefield, Paul Marshall, meat manager Almac, said he had ordered 1/3 of his normal meat order for the week. He had across sources to increase the supply at the time. He said most sales were strong last weekend and some customers were stocking up for the preparation of the boycott. Ray Osby, gross manager at a sub shop at Wakefield Mall, said also he ordered lean meat. I'm going to see how it goes. Osprey said that he expected his wife will be boycotting meat until this week. In Providence, a large meat wholesaler said, we're playing it close to the vest. We expect very little business because we bought very little meat. An employee at the Liberty Market on Waterman Avenue in East Providence said business is very slow. Customers stocked up last week. In West Warwick, the owner of Charlie's Best Buy supermarket said he too was ordering the meat. I've been in the meat business 44 years, fought the war, restaurant and food stamps, and Charles made it. I wish I could get out now. Spaghetti, macaroni, chicken, and seafood topped the Sunday dinner menus for thousands of Americans in the opening day of the week-long meat boycott protested high prices. Most meat markets were closed on Sunday, so it was hard to judge whether housewives were requesting beef, lamb, and pork over the shopping list. Random sampling at Detroit area supermarkets showed customers a large numbers were avoiding meat counters. We've been selling chicken and that's all, said Sherry. Killsworth, meat clerk at the Detroit food store and assistant manager at another chain store, said that was really, really bad.
How united is Boston as we approach the first...
The 9.3 miles of Penn Central Railroad track between Portsmouth and Newport are slated for abandonment of the Bankrupt Railroad. The company is waiting permission from the Interstate Commerce Commission to make that move, according to the company's spokesman. Part of the track between Van Zandt Avenue and West Marlborough Street has been a center of controversy between proponents of the building the southbound road from the Newport Bridge and relocated tracks, and the point group proposed to keep the tracks. The latter group wants the new road to be two-way to serve the homes and other buildings, when stretching to make room for the relocated tracks on the northbound Newport Bridge fender route. The spokesman said tomorrow morning
Well, one of the reasons
that the Bankrupt Railroad is hoping to abandon the lease
is
a quarter of its
one thing.
20,000 miles and tracked it at clear losers. The trustees are asking that the ICC allow the
If white people,
company to abandon 130.9 miles of unprofitable secondary
black and Latino
and
people are,
bench line at track 20 points for New England.
Sure.
And in addition, the Newport to Portsmouth track was divided for the economic study. The railroad trustee report released last month along with 100 miles of track in New England.
missing, and it's all
Railroad trustees attended the study review a decision made last October to petition the ICC for track amendment plans. The trustees want to make sure that the portion of track is a clear lose, said the spokesman.
so quick to just dismiss race as a factor, because it seems to be a factor across different.
Well, for instance, one of those three people...
3 more persons have filed scanty papers for office in the
No one cared about that.
Newport election on September
It
11th.
was determined that they were...
After Grinnell of 46 Friendship Street has filed a councilman at large, and Samuel J. Berman at 82 Middleton Avenue has filed for a councilman from the 3rd Ward.
To heck with them.
Grinnell was a candidate for the council 2 years ago, and Brian B. Barnes was appointed to the council to fill the unexpired school committee term. House Brother Michael Burns said it had filed for the election in the seat.
I think a lot of times that happens because of class. I think that may happen because of the area that it's in. Where it happened was, you said Waltham.
Waltham.
So it didn't happen in the big media market that is Boston, where I think it would have gotten a different response, a la the Amy Lord case, where, you know, the Boston police once again
In Providence,
still to find
a controversial gambling bill that has drawn little attention to this Rhode Island General Assembly should be ready for a vote in the Senate sometime this week. Its sponsor will be saying tomorrow.
Boston City Council... Senator
Senator Raymond Graham, Democrat of Providence, predicted the Senate will easily pass this measure.
with this...
Graham's the Senate chief proponent of gambling legislature has proposed a state-run system of betting cards on professional sports contests. On his proposal, the state agency would set odds on sports games and would provide payoffs on bets ranging from 50 cents to $10. Winners will be determined by whether odds have been set on the games and the number of contests currently picked. The bill drew a great deal of attention when it was first sponsored early January, but then fell into obscurity until assuredly last month. At that session, representatives of fair sports leagues voiced opinions of legislation of sports betting. Graham said the bill would be the subject of a judicial committee hearing Tuesday that is one from the Republican Rhode Island law enforcement officials. Graham said that he hoped that law enforcement officials such as Attorney General Richard Israel and Colonel Walter McQueenie, chief of Providence Police, would testify that legalized gambling would be cut into profits of organized crime. Expanding the legislature today is $200 million in legal betting in Rhode Island. Graham said, with his bill, he said, we're not going to stop the bookies, but we can slow them down. He estimated that the state would recap about $5 million a year from the operation of the sports card system. By legalizing off-track betting and lotteries, it will have said the state could collect 5% of its annual building budget from gambling. Graham's dismissed the opposition of the sports industry to his proposal. They realized that it's going to take a lot of states that they're not going to get any revenue, he said.
Geez, it's too bad, and you know, it's an unfortunate thing, but that's the way it is, because it doesn't have to be that way.
So one of the comparisons you made is neighborhoods.
I'll add the weather right now here. Okay, let us take a look at our current conditions around the region here.
So he said it could have gone off at the start line. Would you have felt the same about it? Because that was Hopkinton. So
At 11:03 p.m. on the Sunday night, the 1st of April
because it was in Copper
of 1973.
Hopkinton share the same thing. Violence is not supposed to occur there. Whereas Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, it's everyday life. It's like a bird flying by. I would say to Mr. Keene's point, though, that when we see other instances, so here's a tragedy that was enormous, but looked at differently as well. Katrina. So we saw the devaluation of black and brown life again with Katrina.
We got a 48 temperature degree reading for TF Green and Warwick, 48 for North Kingstown, 50 for New Bedford, 52 in Block Island, 52 in New London, 46 in Otis Air Force Base, 44 in Hyannis, 45 in Nantucket, 45 in Boston, it's 45 in Worcester, 47 in Springfield. Out in Hartford, it is 47 in Winslow, Auckland, and Hartford, and 49 in Bridgeport. Okay, let us take a look at our
The devastation that happened in Haiti, although there was a worldwide response.
forecast for tomorrow. It will be rainy for much of northern New England and northern Canada, stretching over Quebec, while some snowy conditions and cool skies from Ontario stretching down for much of the midwestern portion of the state, and some cooler, bringing some cooler down for the western portion of the country, and some rain showers from northern Florida stretching out to the Gulf States, and then the northern Texas and western Oklahoma stretching out to some snow showers in the northeastern portions of New Mexico up into the Colorado and down for western portions of Nebraska. And warm front leading the warm moisture to the Gulf of Mexico, and low pressure surgery in eastern Ontario and off the New England coastline, and high pressure in South Carolina. Cool skies in northeastern portions of California and Utah, western plains and northern Minnesota and northern
the 80s, and it's like
in Ontario. Here,
difficult time.
okay, let us take a look at our forecast for Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Here, cloudy with showers tonight, low temperature near 40 degrees, and tomorrow and Tuesday, podcast skies for both days, highs in the 50s, and tomorrow night, cloudy with showers tomorrow night, low near 40 degrees. For Boston vicinity, showers tomorrow night, low around 40 degrees, winds about 20-30 miles per hour, northerly to tomorrow night. Tomorrow and Tuesday, podcast skies, highs in the 50s, westerly winds about 15-25 miles per hour, probability of precipitation 6% tonight and 20% tomorrow and Tuesday.
4 years ago was in the
As rain and showers, forecast today for the Gulf Coast states and north
and you're absolutely
and most of Texas, and snow expected to the southern plains. Snow is forecast for the Great Lakes and rain for northern New England, and cold weather expected for most all the nation. That's me for the weather here.
Right, well, we're doing our part to keep this hot, and we've been promoting your website all year long, and we will continue to do so. Right, Jamal Crawford, Tom King, thanks.
Pleasure.
All right, and join us tomorrow night as we see how the marathon bombing victims spent the past year rebuilding their lives.
Began the challenges of having to deal with an amputation and a prosthetic and
in sports, John Havlicek poured on 54 points as the Boston Celtics defeat the Atlanta Hawks 134-109 in game number 1 in the Eastern Conference semifinals as the Boston Celtics take a 1-game-to-none lead to this best-of-7 series.
It's easy to miss a piece of mail.
In Boston, the Boston Bruins wrap up the 72-73 regular season with a 5-3 loss to the Montreal Canadiens at the Garden, as the Boston Bruins will open their playoff round against the New York Rangers, who they defeated in the Stanley Cup Finals last season.
The caller ID says it's the Middlesex Sheriff's Office.
And
threatens you with imminent arrest for missing jury duty.
Lil Graham and Billy Castro tied for the lead at the Greensboro Open in North Carolina here.
And provide them with the numbers on the back of the card. The funds are then electronically transferred off the card.
And the Rhode Island Reds here.
Of course, that call isn't really from the sheriff's office, and that's why they
defeated the Rochester Americans 7-3 as the Rhode Island Reds wrap up 4th place in the division here. And
what we have found is we are always advising people about scams, and
American League and
years, and especially in the last couple
sports picks say the Red Sox will rate 4th in the East. And that's gonna be it for Newscope 6 on the Sunday night, April the 1st, 1973. I'm Peter Westing, but for good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night, next will be ABC Evening News. Good night, and see you tomorrow. Good night.
Way to take money from